Hey, James, how you doing, man?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing good. You guys getting along over there? Everything going okay?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. Working from home, trying to juggle all the kids and work and everything like that. But yeah, we're all happy and healthy, so that's good.
Good. Things are starting to open up a little bit for you, right?
Yeah, very slowly. The shops open this week. It's slowly, but hopefully we'll return to some normality at some point soon.
Yeah, obviously we're trying to keep our finger on it, with the UK brand and everything over there, and anxious to get that back up and running, as I know all of them are,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so many people are desperate for some fun live entertainment, and WWE brings that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we can again soon then.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So Triple H, Paul Levesque, King of Kings. Thank you so much for your time today. It's hugely appreciated. Now,
it's gonna take you a while to get through all the nicknames.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's loads more. I only gave you 3. Now, you are, of course, one of Undertaker's greatest rivals, and I want to get deep into a bit of Taker with you. But before we do that, I just wanted to find out how things are. Really, it's such a bizarre time for everyone in the world at the moment, but for WWE, a huge upheaval across sort of nearly every aspect of what you guys do. I'm sure you're clambering to get fans back inside arenas. But to reflect on the positives, what would you say are the good things to come out of all this when it comes to the business?
Well, I think, there's a lot of positive that you can find in any situation, once you get past it and can look back and filter through it. And I think some of the experimentation and, the whether people want to call them whatever they label them as this week's cinematic or offsite or, different kinds of shoots. I think it's also allowed us to go back and look at different ways of presenting character development for all the shows where you can present characters in a different way, and fans are more willing to accept it. Doesn't mean they're going to like it, but accept it and sit and watch it. And I think when we get on the other side of this, that opens up opportunities for them to be able to do more and not just say, match to match and let's do this and let's do that and get straight into everything. I think there'll be a much more acceptance of some different kinds of production opportunities and different ways to present characters and the way people consume the product. So I think that's exciting. And look, for us, it's been great to be able to put a product out there no matter what. I think people need it, as you said, in this time. They just need some entertainment and some relief and stop watching the news and everything else. And we've been able to do that. But the truth is, we do what we do because of the fans and because of their passion for what we do and their reactions. And we kind of are the true interactive television show on TV and always have been. And that's been the fan base and their participation in the shows is as big a part of it as anything. And not having them there has been a big void. And I know we can't wait for their return. And I think everybody will be excited when the world can get back to normal a little bit and people can get back to going to events and being entertained and not just having to sit home.
Yeah, 100%. Well, talking about fans being excited, there's so much excitement around Undertaker, The Last Ride, the documentary series that's been running on the network over the last few weeks. The finale is upon us on Sunday. Now, he's been such a constant for fans over the last, and it's something that we really celebrate and have done over the last 30 years. It's Mr. Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, your old mate. In one of the previous episodes of The Last Ride, Vince McMahon couldn't even vocalize what Undertaker meant to him and the company without crying. Like, he physically couldn't do it. And as someone who knows Vince obviously incredibly well, why do you think this relationship in particular runs so deep?
Well, one, it's been a long time. They've, 30 years more together. I think in some way you've heard Mark say it, he sees Vince as a mentor, a father, a brother, a friend, all those things. I think Vince feels the same way. When you've done that much together, when you've been in the trenches together, when you've done all those things, and I think in some ways, Mark looks at Vince as that father figure that he could always turn to, and Vince looks at him, Mark, as the constant that he could always rely on, and that the one guy maybe that he knew was never he wasn't going to walk away, he wasn't going to take a bigger offer, he wasn't going to do something else, he wasn't going to anything, he was just always there, and I think there's always been a mutual respect between the two. Mark's pretty straightforward in his dealings, and so is Vince, and I think that's been just a constant respect between the two of them. And I think that's what you see in that. It's just constant respect. And when you get to somebody like Vince, he's not a reflective guy. Vince isn't. He tends to move on. Something great happens. He goes, "Oh, that was great. Okay, what's next?" And he just, he's not a look back, and just not his personality. But when you get into somebody like Mark and you begin to ask him about it, where he does have to reflect on it, it's overwhelming to him. The amount of respect, the amount of passion, just everything they've been through, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. Taker's described as locker room leader, the conscience of WWE. He's certainly up there as one of the most famous wrestlers on the planet, like a household name, even for non-fans. But his character, his mystique, him not doing many press interviews over the last 3 decades, that's what makes this documentary series such a special event. Was there any nervousness internally about Mark pulling back the curtain all the way? Or was it always the plan? It's just the timing needed to be right?
No, look, there was a lot of that. I think even to this going on the air, I think you would have still found some people that would have been like, I don't know why we're doing this. You know what I mean? It's tough to protect something like that for that long, and then all of a sudden just go, okay, doors are open. I think Mark had reservations about it. I think he's thought about doing it. I think he's, protecting that character for that long lead you to the place you're at now, but a lot of opportunities pass by that you think to yourself, man, I could have done that. Man, that could have been me. Man, I could have had this or that. Imagine what that would have been like for me. Those are all things that he put aside purposefully to protect that character and to keep the aura and the image up. And when everything in the business changed and became wide open, he still protected that character and that image and all that stuff. And, look, I don't know that you can name anybody else in the business where as recently as just a few years ago, if you would see a picture of him, in a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops with his wife at the beach or something like that, people would lose their mind over the picture. Here's the Undertaker. Like, it just was mind-boggling. And for me, it was like, when I was a kid, Kiss and, they wore the makeup, and oh my God, if somebody tried to catch a picture of them with the makeup off, it was crazy, right? But for him to still maintain that mystique to just recently, it's amazing. So there was reservations, I think, on his side, on a lot of people's sides. But I think the timing was right. It used to be talked about a lot, like, man, when you can finally tell that story when he's done. But man, why wait until it's done? Get to the place at the end, especially now. No one is going to lose their aura. It's almost going to increase it. All the things, it's awe-inspiring, the things that he went through, the things that he did, everything he sacrificed and everything else to get to the place that he is now. Even just to protect the character. It's amazing. It's an amazing story, as everybody is seeing now. But I don't think that it takes away. It's not like the mystique is gone and then, oh, well. I almost think it makes it more legendary and even more epic. I think it was the right time to do it before he does say, I'm done. I
think you're totally right. And I think the documentary, weirdly enough, is sort of it's created more of a sort of an evolution of his character, and I think fans will be even more invested when he comes to the arena next time. So he
absolutely.
So you arrive in WWE in 1995. Taker by that time was a main event star for the company. Can you tell me about your first meeting with him? Do you remember that? What were your first impressions of Undertaker?
You know, it's funny. I don't remember the first time I met him. You know, there was such a whirlwind for me of, you know, coming in from WCW, and they brought me around a few times before I actually, you know, I was in the transitional contract period between WCW and here. So they brought me to a few shows to meet everybody and stuff. So I'm sure at some point in time, you know, I just met him and said hello. But Mark's he's, you know, friendly. At that time, he was very, very reserved and quiet. He was almost, in some way, you could almost say like he was almost in character a lot. Though not necessarily, he's just not overly talkative, and he's not like Flair or something where he's just out there constantly going and being the center of attention for everybody. He's the constant, but he's off to the side. He's that controlling factor that's just kind of there and observing. And, you know, but he also was like at that period of time, you know, people come in and out and a lot of weird stuff. So you really had to earn sort of that friendship with him. You sort of had to earn that respect with him, and you had to get someplace with him. He wasn't just going to go out of his way to chit chat with you, make you feel comfortable, or, you know, even if you were at the same bar at night, he wasn't interested in, he'd say hello, but he wasn't interested in hanging out with you to try to make you feel comfortable or make you feel like part of the team or anything like that. It's just not his gig. And I think in that time, you know, it's funny because people look at my career in different ways, but I came in, I didn't know, I had never met Kevin or Scott or Kid or Sean, but I very quickly became friends with those guys over a period of time. And that came with a lot of baggage. And I think he came with a lot of baggage for Mark too. I think he looked at me and it's like, I don't think he agreed with everything those guys did. They were our top guys, but I think there was a lot of times when he saw things they did or said or whatever and was like, kind of, you know, stirring the pot a little bit or whatever that is. I think he didn't understand how this new kid comes in and green with some potential, I guess, but all of a sudden he's in with these guys and he's running with that crew. And, you know, I don't think he got it. It took me a while to earn his respect and we've worked a few times and I think that helped. And then, you know, and then I remember that one specific night where we were all out and he, you know, I'd say hello to him, but wouldn't talk to him that much. And I was at the one end of a bar with a bunch of people. He was at the other end of a bar with a bunch of people. And he kind of gave me the nod to come over there. And he went off to the side where he's by himself. And I walked off to the side with him and we just started talking. And, you know, I don't drink, but he ordered 2 shots of Jack and put them in front of us. And we talked for, I don't know, 30 minutes or something like that about a lot of things. And then he kind of gave me the nod and said, "You're right, man." You know, we both did a shot of Jack and that was the icebreaker, you know, and you were kind of in the fold at that point. And I was with him. And then, you know, over those years, that we just the respect grew and the friendship grew. And, you know, he's one of the guys that I really, I can say I pretty much super enjoyed almost every interaction I've ever had with him.
Well, I obviously want to ask you about your famous matches with him. I wanted to quickly ask you about the BSK, the Bone Street Crew. Taker's got this tattoo. Yeah. Taker's got this tattooed on his stomach. So this was a backstage crew, apparently led by Taker and Yokozuna, and a sort of faction of sorts, apparently created to keep the Kliq in check. Was there sort of real tension in the late 90s?
No, but so, you know, it's a funny thing. Like Luger named the Kliq, and I think for a lot of the under and the middle guys, and even some of the top guys, but the kind of the bottom top guys or whatever, or the guys that weren't in that, I think they bought into it. But like, so when the whole the Kliq thing started, we were like, well, if people are going to call us, give us a name, we're going to run with it, and you know, we just screw around and stick signs on the door, Kliq locker room, Kliq only, just goofing around. But the truth is, when you look at like what the BSK thing, like I loved Rodney Yokozuna. Like he and I, man, when we'd be in Europe and stuff, we'd ride together a lot and on the bus and play cards, and he and I got along tremendously. Henry Godwin and Phineas, like I rode with those guys all the time, depending on what tours we were on and stuff like that. I don't know that I've ever laughed harder more often than Henry Godwin was, like the big giant silly farm boy. And man, he and I we got along famously. I got along with Mark great. Like Mark got along with Scott. He got along with Kevin. He and Sean, there were moments, right? Sean didn't get along with a lot of people, but Kid, everybody got along with, so it's kind of like Kid didn't have heat with anybody. Sean had heat with everyone. And Kevin and Scott pretty much got along with most everybody. I was the new dude, but I got along with all those guys. There was no real animosity, anything there, but like putting stickers on the locker room or whatever, we would play it up in front of each other. We very rarely, like if we were in Germany and everybody went to the bar at night, we'd put our crew on one side, they'd put their crew on the other side. We'd laugh about it and talk about it. You know what I mean? The next day and everything like that. And by the end of the night, when things thinned out, we might all be together in the same place, laughing and joking. But the majority of people saw us separated as if it was an issue. It was a really funny thing. We were just kind of, the internet really fully wasn't a thing yet, but the rumor mill was, and we were just working the rumor mill in a lot of ways. And I remember when they all got tattoos, we all were like, "Oh my God, none of us are getting Kliq tattoos." I can tell you that. They're laughing at us and saying we're a bunch of marks for ourselves. Oh my God, they all got tattoos. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so going back to your matches with Undertaker, you're obviously one of his greatest rivals. You had epic matches at Mania 17, and then obviously a decade later at WrestleMania 27 and 28. Did you feel a lot of pressure facing Undertaker the year following Taker's two classics he had with HBK?
Yeah. So... Yeah, unbelievably so. So you put two of the greatest in-ring performers in the ring together, and they back-to-back have two of the greatest matches you've ever seen. That first one, to me, it gets thrown around. That term gets thrown a lot, but it absolutely is one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. You put those two back-to-back, and, look, people say what they want to say, and they build things up, but I've said a million times, Shawn Michaels is probably the greatest in-ring performer that I've ever been in the ring with. Taker, I'll put up there as well. And certainly from a character standpoint and everything else, one of my favorite opponents. To watch those two do that, and I believe somewhere shortly after the first one is when we started having the conversation around making this, like, man, what if we played this story out, like the three of us? Like, how can we all work together and do this? And we all started discussing it as this long-term story and how can we plot this out? And, but to follow those two up, like, oh my God. And look, if it falls apart, no one's going to look at it and go like, Taker couldn't go. Like, they're going to go like, I don't know, he was crushing it with Michaels. He didn't do so well with Triple H. So yeah, it's a ton of pressure. And you also want to tell that story. And that's really what we were after, was this 4-year arc of a story of, Shawn trying to do this. And then it leads to Shawn's demise because he's obsessed with, putting Taker down. And then I come in to try to step in place for him. And I can't get it done either, except, I do what no one's done, which is he beats me, but he has to get carried out and he can't go. And then looks like that's going to be the end. And now together in the last one, we go in there and, it all played out, arguably. And one of the only things I can't think of anything in the business where I could look at it and go like, look, for 4 years or whatever it was, they told this story that they talked about in the beginning with each other of telling, and it all kind of just played out almost the way we talked about it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That never happens.
No, certainly not nowadays. You don't get that long-term booking.
No, and it's look, it's hard to do. It was really hard for us to do, and there was a lot of pressure there to get it all done. But those are some of the proudest that whole series. Some of the proudest stuff I've done in my entire career. Stuff I'm most proud of.
Yeah, it was incredible. Big question for you: would Paul Levesque have booked the Undertaker streak to end at WrestleMania 30?
Hard to say. I don't know. Everybody looks at it from their point of view. But you have to go back to that period of time, to everything that's happening, to all the players involved, to the plans that you have involved for all those players, right? To say, is this the right thing? And I'm not privy to it all. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what all those thoughts or plans were or anything else. I think Mark has said in this that it was the final decision was made that day. I didn't know what was being done that day until very late in the day. And when I heard about it, I was in shock like everybody else, like, you're kidding me. I didn't, but again, you don't know all the pieces. And look, to this day, I probably don't even know all the pieces of, like, I don't know what all the plans were for everybody, what was discussed. I don't know how it all actually exactly went down because honestly, I never asked. But, I think Mark has said it best. Like, look, if this is what Vince wants and he truly believes in this and believes this is what is best, then let's go. And I'm sure that if Vince made that decision, then he believed in his mind that it was the right thing for not only the business, for Brock, for Taker, for everyone as a whole, because that a decision like that affects everything. Take a character like the Undertaker and that streak is meaningful. And I think Vince would look at it and say, well, if not now, when? And, and he has to weigh all that out. And that's where it becomes the heavy decision making, where people can't understand that position that Vince is in until there's just everybody thinks they know the decision they would make. You don't. When it's your decision to make, it's a different conversation. Yeah. And, I believe that he would make what he believed to be the right decision for everyone in that moment. Is it the right decision? It's easy to look back, hindsight 2020, and say is or isn't. But in that moment, I believe he would have believed it was. And then that leads me to think that maybe if I knew all the things that he knew, and then maybe I would have done it too, but I don't know, because I don't know what all those factors were.
Yeah. Well, listen, Paul, I've got to wrap this up just very quickly. We're learning so much about Mark Calaway in this incredible series, The Last Ride. Is there anything you can tell me and our fans about the man that we might not know?
I don't think, because I believe that you're getting to see him. This is a stretch for him to put this all out on the table. But understand also that behind the Undertaker, the American Badass, all those characters, the long career, all the matches, everything he's going through professionally, and then seeing Mark Calaway and how he deals with all those things as a human being. He's also a father, a husband, a son, measuring out all those things happening in his life. As much as he's the measuring stick or the leader in the talent locker rooms, I'm sure he is that to his family, not only immediate, his children and his wife and all that, but his immediate family around him. He's their rock. Those things in your life affect everything else in your life as well. So while you are pulling the curtain back and going, wow, I'm seeing everything about him, you're not. He's a real living, breathing, flesh and blood human being that feels every other emotion and everything else that people do. And it's so easy, one, because you've never seen it before, and two, because of the character, to negate all of that and think that he doesn't have those emotions and feelings. So it's so much deeper than anyone can even imagine. And for somebody like him, that while his family and everything else is the most important thing, I think, in his life, he eats, breathes, sleeps, and lives this business in some manner. And it's deep, and it affects you, and it affects you to your core. And so, you know, it's hard to keep that in mind when you're watching it, but it's so much deeper than you can even imagine.
Yeah. The dead man brought to life. That's the headline. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Stay safe over there, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah.